Jack Frost. What's up, party people? How's everybody doing? I'm hoping everybody is having a beautiful day. We're about to have a really dope conversation today. We got to talk about this. I want to say something, and I think that we're not going to be... I want to be clear on something real quick. This new mayor that we have is taking a certain initiative that people probably would have wished other mayors took. And the initiative that they took, with the exception of Giuliani, it kind of falls on the right side of the line, right? Because what Giuliani did was just 100% unfair. Giuliani said we're going after black people. We're not even going to be... we're not even going to pretend that that's not what we're doing. We're going to be pretty straightforward with it. In this particular situation, there's been a big delineation from just going against black people and to trying to say not all black people is the same. I think that we needed a black man in order to be able to do this. I think that they were trying to do this with the previous man, him having a black wife, but I think that they was operating on a different level and on a different field, and they wasn't actually inviting the streets into the conversation. They was basically... Remember that mayoral how do you say, office got in trouble for stealing money a couple of times, didn't they? So they had other shit going on, so I'm not getting on them. So with this being said, I want to have that discussion today, and it's going to be extensive, and we're going to literally talk about almost every single rapper and almost every single gang that has a RICO indictment or has been locked up in the recent, let's say, 6 to 7 months at least minimum. Also, with that being said, I wanted to lead off with something else. We also have somebody else, and I'm going to lead off with something else, right? Check this out. We're going to really discuss the foolishness of how across the board using rap lyrics in the court system is insane. We're going to discuss the foolishness of that. Like, there's a big foolishness of that. We're going to do roll call at the 5-minute mark. So get your comments in. There's a big foolishness on that. I just want to be clear. Using rap lyrics across the board in court is ridiculous. We're going to discuss the foolishness of that. Real quick, I just want to start off the show by talking about the Monique DL Hughley situation. A couple of things that I want to say. I want to be clear about this. I am 100% not a fan of DL Hughley. I do think that a lot of the media in which he has created has been useful to the culture. And he does raise a lot of awareness and a lot of points. But I'm not a fan of individuals that I believe raise awareness and raise points because they are agenda-based. You get it? Because then if there was no agenda, you wouldn't speak on it. So I have to wait for an agenda come around that is in my favor for you to speak on an issue that I personally have some kind of interest in, that I personally have some kind of it has a personal reflection on my life. It's gonna affect me personally, mentally or physically or financially. I have to wait for you to have an agenda to speak on it. So therefore, his platform that he has on the radio, I personally don't listen to. That's one. So also, I just want to bring up this real quick. The people that he said that Monique had issues with, it's already been known that some of them actually came out and kind of apologized, accepting that they were wrong in the situation. You can't then use that person to say, why does she have problems with everybody? That makes me believe that there is an agenda against the individual. When you literally name somebody that has apologized for their participation. That's all I'm saying. So I think we should look a little bit closer at the what Monique is speaking on. I want to say one more thing on this, and then I'm going to get it going. I think the people who use the Me Too movement to their benefit to hurt people that did no wrong, hurt the movement. I was saying this when it was happening. You want to know who benefited off the Me Too movement? Amber Heard. Amber Heard came out with the Johnny Depp bullshit around the time the Me Too movement started popping. She benefited off of this and destroyed this man's career because messed up this man's career, halted this man's career for whatever the reason is, because she decided that she was going to say some shit that wasn't true and jumped on an agenda. So I don't go with the just jumping on agenda shits. Even if the agenda that you're speaking on is something that I believe in. Because why weren't you speaking on this all these other times? And then why do you talk about it and then all of a sudden you stop talking about it and it ain't a thing? And then when we ask you about it in the future, you just got like a soundbite. You don't have a real deep conversation about it. Because, you know, at one point or another, this was a big issue to you. There should be a lot you have to talk about. But you give us a soundbite. Let's do roll call. Shout out to No Limit War. He says, yeah. That's it. All right, so I want to say something real quick. I want to explain something about Mayor Eric Adams. I need y'all to understand something and pay attention. This is the first thing that I'm going to say because I need to say this to prime the conversation. Do you see how much murder and death we see in the streets? Do you see how much gun violence we've been seeing in the streets? It's been looking like it's insurmountable, right? You've never seen this in the New York City streets before, right? This is the worst the streets have ever been, right? This is what they're telling us, correct? Am I wrong or am I right? They're telling us this is the worst the streets have ever been. The gun violence in the streets right now, it's insurmountable. We got to do something. Guess what? There's like less gun victims at the same time this year than last year. Last year was like 650 something. This year it's like 570 something. Or 560 something gun victims. So there were more last year at this same amount of time. But what were they preaching to us last year? What was they preaching to us last year and the year before? What were they preaching to us? Defund the police, right? Okay, so this whole entire time I've always said I do not believe in defunding the police. I'm just going to say this once again. What I do believe in, if you believe that the police have more money than they should be having, and the money is not going to the appropriate uses, what you can do is you can fund other organizations, but do not take the money away from the police until you find where it's going to go. And the only organizations that I personally am okay with funding from any money that comes from the police are organizations that help the children, the next generation. If it's not doing that, the police should keep it. That's my opinion. If we're not putting the money directly into schools, if we're not putting the money directly into creating more PALs or at least bringing the program back, which would then, you got a lot of police officers that they would work overtime if they can. But if you keep them on the streets working overtime, you got tired police officers. Let them work in the PALs as their overtime. Like, these are things that can be done to lessen the stress in our communities. So I'm for shit like this. I am 100% against weakening our police force for the sake of weakening our police force. I'm going to say this again. Last year at the same time, go check it, Google it. For everybody that think I'm wrong, I'm not even going to Google it. You Google it. Last year at this, for everybody that don't believe me, Google it yourself. Last year at the same time, there was more gun victims than this year at the same time. Why is it in the news so often? Why is it in the news so often? So I'm going to clap it up for Eric Adams. I have a whole bunch of explaining to do. I have so much explaining to do. Because I know a lot of people right now, it's like, how you clapping it up for this bitch ass nigga? He did all this other shit. He locked up my homies. Right? I get you. I'm here with you, by the way. But I'm going to explain something. I like referencing The Wire when I talk about a lot of this shit, because this is the easiest way for me to be able to show you something for you to understand the principles. All of us have seen The Wire. Should have. If you haven't, get on it. HBO Max. Shout out to HBO Max. So check this out. Pay attention. Check this out. Pay attention. One of the things in which they do in order to control our voting, in order to control the masses, is misinformation. So the people that are in charge, they're not always trying to do what's the best for the community. What they're usually trying to do is keep their jobs. I'm going to say this again. The people that are in charge aren't always trying to do what's best for the community. They're usually just trying to keep their jobs. So numbers get fudged. People stop paying attention to what's important. People start hiding shit that we need to know. The public doesn't know what's going on. There's no transparency. So now, pay attention to the wire real quick. Hold on 1 second. Ah, fuck, I tried to mute it. I'm gonna have to stop the show in a moment, and I'm gonna have to come back to you. Because I have to go speak with somebody for a moment. They're about to knock on the door, and I gotta talk to them. So we're gonna come back to the show. Give me about 15-20 minutes. We're about to come back to the show.